Greetings, Internet! Welcome to the fantabulous world of the Comic Watchers Show. I'm your host, Matt Meyer. With me, as always, is mighty Mike Eakins. Hello, sir.
Hello.
And with us this week from the crazy, unprecedented success of Image Comics' Stray Dogs, we have Mr. Tony Fleece himself. Tony, how the heck are you, bud?
Hey, gang. I'm doing good. Busy. A lot going on.
You're a busy man.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you've always got stuff happening because you're a creator and a creator creates. But Stray Dogs kind of took off like a rocket. Like, how you feeling right now?
It's crazy. I mean, we did not expect. I mean, obviously, why would you expect that would take off like that?
It's so left field, right?
Yeah. It was a pitch where before I had artwork, when I would tell people about it, they would just be like, okay, you know. And then when I had artwork,
the smile and nod response.
Yeah, when Trish got involved and I had artwork to show, that they would get a little more interested. But it sort of is the sort of thing that you have to show people the full thing before they understand what the thing is. I think even now, like what's great is shops will tell me they can pitch it by just saying like what it is, and then flip through the book and show somebody, and then they'll buy it. But before having all that stuff to show people, it was just like, oh, okay. And then we came from My Little Pony. We didn't come from some other top-selling Image book. So yeah, very surprising.
Very out of nowhere. But before we really dive into that, I know you've got a Kickstarter that is firing off right now. Time Shoppers. I hope I didn't butcher that too badly. What's the elevator pitch, man?
So it's about a guy that gets a job traveling in time, and he's supposed to solve history's greatest disasters. Like he's supposed to go warn the Titanic or warn JFK, kill baby Hitler, this type of thing. Mm-hmm. And when he gets back in time, he just immediately gets distracted by how cheap everything is. And so instead of doing the stuff he's supposed to do, he just goes and buys stuff, for cheap. Sort of wish fulfillment comics.
That's brilliant, Tony.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So, who's your partner in crime on that one?
So that one is with a buddy of mine, Christian Misi.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's basically the whole team from Stray Dogs, except instead of Trish on the art, it's my friend Christian Misi, who we got into comics around the same time. We worked at the same first publisher together, and now this 15 years later or so, we finally got together and made something together.
That's so awesome. I hope it's going well. I don't want to ask you a funding question. You're like, God, it's doing terrible. Please save my book. But how much longer is the campaign for the book going? How about we go there?
Oh, we just put it up today, so there's still another 29 days. Awesome. We're almost 80% of the way there.
Oh, wow.
So it's going very good. Like better than we expected.
What are the benefits for you as a creator going Kickstarter rather than, say, pitching this to Image or to Boom or somebody like that?
Well, this is the format of this book was something that we thought of before we thought of like even what the whole story was going to be and like what the content of it was going to be. So we wanted it to be like a European graphic novel format, like an album size, because we like that format, and I think everybody likes it, and we can't figure out how to make it in America just because like shops like to stock things on their shelves that are shaped like comics. But me and Christian, when we started talking about this, we're like, well, we want to make it album sized, and we want to do it as like a complete story, and then if we want to do more, do another album like the European format. So Image doesn't, they do that for like Matt Fraction. But at the time when we would have been pitching this, I was not in a place where I could ask Image to make a special format for me, maybe now, but originally we were going to put it out through Action Lab, which is a small press publisher who's been in the news quite a bit lately.
A little bit.
And because of the
workout.
because of the reasons that it's been in the news, we're putting it out ourselves.
Wow!
Like we didn't have an as nightmarish an experience as some of the people did, but we got to the point where it had been like solicited. and shops had ordered it, and then it just like sort of the combination of COVID and a bunch of other stuff happening at the same time, it just sort of sat on the back burner for a while. So as soon as we got the rights back, we were like, well, let's just kickstart it. Let's not mess around with any other publishers, because it's just like, I think this is something we can handle. And because we had an idea for what a Kickstarter would be, not just like, here's this and you get bookmarks with it and you get stickers and t-shirts and stuff. Like we thought
everybody loves swag.
Well, yeah, but we thought like if we could make it part of the story, then that would be something people would be into too. So we did all the stuff you get with the book is stuff that he bought in time. So like there's like an autographed picture of Jesus that you get, or like a Nixon campaign pin. It's like artifacts that he's bought through time. But
are you the mad bastard child of Mark Russell and Fred Van Lint? Because
I would take that. Sure. A big fat, almost the same age baby.
Hey, it's time travel. We already have time travel in the mix, dude.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Mike, I can't wait for that. Can't wait for the book to come in already.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mike backed it already.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
where are you on this, Matt? Come on.
Yes. I just literally found out about it.
All right.
It's been a busy day. Goodness.
Takes minutes to go to Kickstarter and just sign up for those reminders. Minutes.
That's right. Yeah, you can go to timeshoppercomic.com. That'll take you there, or you can go to Kickstarter and just look up Time Shopper.
Awesome.
How's that sound? That's my air conditioner. Is it loud or is it okay?
Can't hear it.
Okay.
That sound is my annoying cat. So one of the herd. So speaking of animals, but not annoying ones, stray dogs. Let's go there, because this is, you've done a lot of work, but I'd say up through Stray Dogs, your big claim to fame is being the big MLP guy. And that's awesome. Like, you're very beloved in those circles, and somehow managed to work Transformers meeting ponies into the mix, which is beyond cool. Let's be honest. I want to circle back around to that at some point. Yeah. But now we have a comic that is alternatively described on the back of it as the Don Bluth movie, All Dogs Go to Heaven, combined with Silence of the Lambs. Let's just dig into this, man. Where the heck does this idea come from?
Well, I mean, a lot of it comes from having worked on ponies. Not the story necessarily. It's not like a situation where I was thinking like, what would be a good story for ponies, and then thought of a serial killer.
Dash versus the Skinner.
but it came from thinking about stories, and then not just always having them be people stories. Like I had the idea of a serial killer who takes people's pets as trophies first, and then very quickly, like I thought for a minute, like, all right, well, do you tell that from the perspective of the victim, or do you tell it from the perspective of the police? And neither of those seemed like necessary. Like, they didn't seem like they needed to be a story necessarily.
Right.
Just like a creep. But then because I work in this space where I'm always doing stories about animals, I real quickly was just like, oh, if it was about the dogs though, and if it was told from their perspective and they had dog brains that couldn't comprehend what was going on, then that's an interesting mystery. Like, that's an interesting story.
And it lends itself to just an incredibly unique perspective. Mike, do you want to go ahead, jump in, bud?
Yeah, Tony. I'd like to hit a little bit on the Don Bluth influence. Is there an influence from Don Bluth? Because I noticed like a lot of times, especially we work with My Little Ponies and Trish and everything. There's that really great cartoony, like Don Bluth vibe to it. Do you normally gravitate working with that type of art, or is it just kind of like a Bob Ross happy accident type of deal?
No, that's definitely on purpose. Like, the way that I draw myself is cartoony. And I think a lot of it is sort of like I'll Show You or Insecurity, where you see a lot of people go like, well, he wouldn't be right for that kind of story because it's not like, that's not the kind of story it is. Thinking like, oh, it should be like a kid's story or a YA thing or something funny. And so I've always thought, like, the whole time I've been in comics, like, there's a way to do serious stories or scary stories, or, you know, like, you can do anything with this format. And you see people do it, you know, like Black Sad is cartoony and very serious, or, you know, like Mouse is fucking insanely serious and cartoony. And so it's not like we're breaking any real new ground, but I also thought, like, using the nostalgia people have for those Don Bluth movies, or like those 90s animated movies, would really be a way that you could sucker punch them, you know, like lull them into a sense of security, or they're reading this thing and it feels familiar. And then when in the first issue, when we do the twist, then all of a sudden they're just like, what the fuck's going on here? What is this?
Right. Well, it's like you said, it lures them into a false sense of security, and then they flip the page and like, oh my God, that used to be a face. And yeah, like just a brilliant juxtaposition, and I don't know.
Thank you.
Not a happy accident, but very deliberate.
No, it was on purpose. That's how I ended up finding Trish. Like, I knew her from My Little Pony conventions, but just only a very little bit. Like, only met a couple times, but I knew I wanted somebody to draw it who wasn't me, and who could draw more Don Bluthy than I could. And like, I remembered seeing a piece that she'd done, like a piece of fan art where she'd drawn her dog as the dog from All Dogs Go to Heaven. It was very
awesome.
And I was like, oh, that's like, if that lady could do this, then this would be exactly how I want the book to be. And she was into it, and it turned out exactly how I wanted it to. So it worked out.
Well, her art is such a revelation. Like, this story only works half as well as it does without the art and the art style that Trish brings to it, you know? It's striking, it's different, it's vivid and emotionally evocative. And I mean, all the things you want from good art. So I'm going to have to assume that you two will be working again in the future, and presumably outside of the recently announced Stray Dogs sequel.
I hope to. Yeah, we're working on Stray Dogs a ton right now with Dog Days, which is the follow-up. And then we don't know what our next thing is. Like, I have a few other things lined up, some that I'm drawing and some that other people are drawing. But the other thing with Trish is that she's like a normal person. Like, she has a regular job, and and so like the whole 2 years plus we've been working on Stray Dogs, she'll go to her job at 8 in the morning or whatever, and she'll work until 6, and then she'll draw Stray Dogs until about midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and then go to sleep and get up, and she works on Stray Dogs every day. Yeah, it's super grind. So, I mean, Stray Dogs has been doing great, and so hopefully she won't have to work a day job forever, you know?
Right.
But she also has, you know, like, she has a retirement. Like, she has a whole normal setup. All the shit that I just threw away that I was like, I don't need that 401k and vacation and stuff. Like, she's got all that stuff. So she's, you know, hanging in there and gonna, you know, get everything that she's owed from having worked a job for her whole life. But then also, you know, like, as soon as she's ready to do more, I'll have something cooked up. I'm definitely thinking of, like, you know, what else we would do together.
Well, and the risk you run is accusations of repeating yourselves, right? So you want to work with this amazingly talented person, but you don't want to do, oh, here's the Stray Cats comic that we've made up together now, right? So that's certainly an interesting creative challenge.
Especially like the way that I get excited about making stories is if they're completely different than stuff that I know about, you know, like like there may be something else like Stray Dogs, there might be something else like Time Shopper out there, but I'm not, like, I didn't see it, I don't know about it, and so I can't just go like, oh, this would be a good whodunit, you know, and then just do a good whodunit, because it takes so long to make comics, you know, like, it has to be something that is completely uniquely me and my collaborators. So we'll figure it out, but yeah, it's going to be different.
That's awesome.
Mike? Yeah, there's an authentic feel to Stray Dogs. that I think adds to the overall creepiness of the horror vibe to it, to where they're dogs. They're confused dogs. They're playing in the yards. Do you have dogs? I mean, were they like an influence? Did you want to do something completely different to where, like, say, like with My Little Ponies, they're holding stuff and they're doing, human, type stuff. But when you read Stray Dogs, part of creepiness is like you see your own dogs, you see your own pets, and you see like just everyday dogs. So it was like, how was that? Like, was that one of the main things? Like, you knew you just wanted to have dogs, like say regular dogs, and rather than just another where they're cooking eggs and bacon in the morning, and all of a sudden they're
Yeah, we want them to be Plutos, not Goofies, right? Like they don't they don't have hands, they don't use telephones. I mean, these dogs do try and use a telephone, but they're not good at it. Right. Yeah, it was about making them like the characters are, because they talk to each other and because they have personalities and stuff, like anthropomorphized personalities, right? Like they don't stand on their hind legs, but they all have a different, like they seem like people to a certain extent. But having them still be dogs and that they can't pick things up, or they don't know what certain things are, their memories aren't great, that all comes from my own dogs. And like, we'll go on walks and they'll want to go places that we've never, like, they'll want to go left when we always go right. And I'll be like, we always go this way. We never go in that yard, like you're not allowed to play with that dog. And they don't remember. So it could just be that I'm bad at training them. But that was sort of like what I took from them, was that, like, no matter what these dogs in the story see, it's not 100% that they'll remember it the next page, or the next issue or whatever. So it sort of keeps the reader knows what's going on, but you feel frightened for the characters because the characters don't necessarily know what's going on.
Right.
And then they're also more vulnerable that way, because they don't like, they have zero agency. Like, they can't do anything for themselves. They can't even get outside unless they do something drastic.
They're dogs,
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's one of the things that kind of throughout the whole series, I found myself kind of almost getting the heartstrings tugged on a little bit as I'm looking at, my dog, going like, oh man, like this, like, I know it's a comic, but man, this could happen. Like, this is pretty fucking horrible, pardon my French, but it was one of those things where just the art and just the story just melted so good together, and it just tugged on it played with your fears, it played with your emotions and stuff. It's pretty much a complete package and what you want.
Thank you. Yeah, we really.
I mean, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
I'm sorry. I was just bullshitting.
I was apparently dying while you were talking, so it's okay. But one of the things that really grabbed me from the start was the issues with Sophie's and the other dog's memories. Because, we're conditioned as readers, especially of comics, and we look, somebody can't remember something, we immediately start looking for certain tropes. But then you continue reading, and it's like, oh, this isn't that at all. This is really about how dogs' actual memories work. What led you to that exactly? That, because it's such a powerful and important part of the story, on a bunch of different levels. And it would have been so easy, though, to just have the story about talking dogs, right? But here's this little dash of realism in there that is crucial.
Yeah. I sort of worked backwards to it, because the original concept I had was that I wanted it to be a house full of dogs who live with this serial killer, and they don't know that he's a serial killer. But then if they're going to remember, like if they're going to have witnessed these crimes, then they have to have forgotten. So I went and looked up dog memories and sort of like did as much reading as I could about dog memory and like how that works. And it's not 100%, like the way that we present it in the book isn't like according to veterinarians, 9 out of 10 veterinarians agree that dogs have bad memories. I mean, we know that dogs have great memories, you see those videos online where like a soldier comes back from war and they've been gone for years and the dog freaks out and remembers them immediately. Like, but that, I mean, I feel like that also is something we play with in the book, where when they have a sense memory or they smell something, they realize what's going on. But it was basically just that we needed the dogs to feel like they were safe. And then we also wanted to set up the idea that like, sort of like, when someone tells you that they've been victimized and then you don't believe them, like we wanted that to be a big part of the story. And the memory was sort of crucial to all that stuff.
Right. So that actually brings up a point that I hadn't considered, but with not believing victims, and we're in an era of Me Too where we're definitely, at least culturally, making overtures towards listening to victims. Is that something that you had on the forefront of your mind that you kind of wanted to address in some way?
I mean, forefront is maybe overstating it, but it's definitely something that I considered. Like I wrote this thing I had the concept in like 2018, so like right in the wake of Me Too, like the big Me Too stuff happened in like 2017, 2018. It was still going on. And so, I was obviously thinking about that in terms of like believing women, believing, people when they say things, like what's the point of, I feel like it's weird. And it's not weird. It's like you want to comfort yourself when somebody says something uncomfortable by saying that it's impossible, not true. That
right. Rather than confront the harsh reality.
But I like during that time, I guess the thing that I thought about the most was just like, well, what would be the point of lying about that? Or what would be the point of that many people, in some of these cases lying about that? But yeah, we definitely wrote it into this. Or I definitely wrote it into this. The main character, Rusty, like the whole time, he's drawn and he acts like the sort of the alpha dog, the hero dog.
Yeah.
But I feel like is sort of represents maybe not my own journey, but maybe my own journey. But like, he at first doesn't believe, and he, he's trying to. He's like, I want to believe you, but he just won't. Like, he won't just fully buy into it, which I think is in that situation anybody would. But then like the solution that he comes up with for like how he's going to try and be helpful is also just like, I don't think that's the right answer either. Like I wanted to make it complicated and sort of deal with the complicated feelings I had about, how like we all had, like all of us are just like, well, what have I done? What have I, how have I reacted to things? And, have I been as good a person as I, all that shit.
Yeah, definitely cause for self-reflection.
Yeah.
Only with dogs. And they're great dogs. They have such distinct personalities too. They're all good boys and girls. And I mean, what did you have kind of a idea of like the types of personalities and the archetypes that you wanted to play with the dog characters? Because they're all very unique in their terms of their voice, but they all play off each other really well and they feel very familiar.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'd say it was probably about 50-50. Some of them we knew exactly what their character was going to be before we started designing. And then some of them, the character came out of the designing, so like we would see a dog and it would look a certain way and we just like, oh, that's how this dog is. But like the main ones, Rusty and Sophie and Earl, and Victor and probably Roxanne, all of those were designed with just like, this is what this dog's purpose is in the story, and this is sort of the way they react to it and what their character's like. Mm-hmm. Like Rusty, very clearly, we were always just like, this is the alpha dog. He's he acts like he knows what's going on, but he doesn't know anything that the rest of the dogs don't know. And we sort of based that character on like a Balto / like a Dodger from Oliver and Company. You know, just like a cool dog. And when he comes along, you feel like, okay, this is going to be okay. This guy's here, you know?
Right. So, Mike, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, for sure. With each issue came numerous reprintings. I think most of them were like 4th and 5th printings. They all had different homage covers, and even some kind of melted over into to Dynamite with Army of Darkness and stuff like that. Did you have a play in those? Are you a horror fan? Did you kind of, as Stray Dogs was picking up steam, did you, were you like, yeah, let's do some homage covers, let's, you know, because like Demons and all that stuff, I mean, how did those covers come about?
So I had a retailer, I am a big horror fan. I had a retailer friend who, when like he was trying to help me figure out like how to roll this thing out and what it should be like when, you know, Image had said they were going to publish it, and I was just trying to figure out like how to get people to pay attention to it. And like, this is a guy that always sort of talks straight with me, and he's just like, you know, nobody's going to pay attention if you do this, or if you know, like I went and watched them do orders at their store, and just a very sobering experience, because you put all this thought into like, oh, this is what's going to say in my previews and this and that, and then, you know, it gets such a quick look that you sort of have to really hit. So he said do movie posters, but he originally said do animated movie posters. So like, since it's an animated style, do Don Bluth movies and stuff like that. And I was hesitant to even, because I've always been proud of the idea. You know, like I was always just like, when people see what this is, they're going to think it's cool. So I was hesitant to hang it up with any other sort of property, or, you know, like, this is our thing, so why put, you know, Silence of the Lambs or anything else?
Why bite that style, right?
Yeah. But then a friend of mine said, well, you would do horror posters, like that's the play. And then when I was talking to Image about it, Kat Salazar is their marketing person over there, or PR person, and she was like, oh yeah, horror covers works great because it tells the story of what the thing is without you having to say anything, you know, like if you show a cartoony Silence of the Lambs, then people just know this is a cartoony sound, you know, it's like a cartoony horror book. And that really made a lot of sense to me. And then the reaction to them was very positive, you know, like it was a big, it went over huge. And so when the book started getting reprinted, the first reprints we did were all just like story covers. Like the second printings to every issue was just a comic book cover of a story. But then from there, it was just like, well, I don't know how many other story covers we can come up with. So let's just keep doing this thing that people like. And so we did a ton of them. And yeah, they were all the ones that Trish and I did, which is all the main reprints and all the main A and B covers. I think I picked out what they were all going to be for those. And then retailers jumped in and did their own retailer covers. And some of those they picked out themselves. But yeah, Demons was me. I wanted to do a whole ton of like Italian horror movies, but the posters aren't all super iconic. You know, there's a couple that we're going to be doing down the line that are still out there, but Demons is one you see it and you know what it is immediately. If you know, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the things. I mean, I originally picked it up just for on the tagline, you know, Don Bluth meets Silence of the Lambs. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm here for that. And then now all the reprintings, like you said, you know, you got the Demons cover, Silence of the Lambs, all these great covers. And it's like, okay, you got to have the covers. I don't care if it's a 3rd or 4th, 5th print. Like, you know, I need these covers. It's such a great idea. Such a great idea.
You. Yeah, well, I'm glad we did it. Like I said, I wasn't sure at first, and it's definitely worked out in our favor, you know.
Absolutely.
And they're fun. Like,
absolutely. So we touched on this earlier, but I was going to say we touched on earlier, but sequel recently announced for next year. I don't want to spoil the ending for anybody, but the way the ending is written makes it hard for me to envision a spoiler or a sequel unless we're talking about new characters in a new scenario. So I know there's a lot, basically nothing you can tell us about the upcoming sequel, but can you at least tell us, are we going to get some returning favorite characters?
Well, that's where you're wrong, Matt. I can tell you everything about this thing. So it's more of it's not a sequel so much as it's a follow-up.
Okay.
And when we pitched the book originally to Image, the original Stray Dogs, it's 5 issues. The story is fast, it's bang, bang, bang. These things happen. And then if by some miracle people really like it, we have like a special we want to do where it's all these characters, because there's 10 dogs in the story, and some of them only get a couple lines in the 5 issues. So we said we want to do a special where each dog gets their own story, and it's like prequel stuff or in between stuff, and a little bit happens afterwards. But it's all just like these other dogs that we met in the story. Each of them have they all have their own story.
They have stories to tell, right?
Yeah. So that's what it is. It's just like extended edition, like the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
These other things.
The edition of Lord of the Rings is better. So.
Yeah. Well, but like the Lord of the Rings, like the pacing is different. It's not as as zippy.
Right.
So if we would have put these in the original thing, I don't think it would have been as effective. But
in
this format, I think it would be cool.
The super fast pace of this miniseries really lends to the suspense of the story. Like if it were bogged down with lots of dialogue or exposition, and the pacing grinds to a halt, and the urgency in the way the plot is constructed, as these sweet little pups are figuring out that they do not live with a very good master, and they all used to have ladies and now they don't, is huge. So I don't know. I mean, could you take the upcoming one shot and intersplice it for like a director's cut or something, for lack of a better term, and it would work, or does this need to stand on its own?
I feel like it probably works best if it stands on its own. I mean, we did, there's a 10-page free comic book day story that we did too, that's sort of in the style of what these will be also. Like that one was about the very first dog. And you can read that at the beginning and then read through the whole thing, and it works fine. I'm sure there's some sort of like machete order we could figure out, where you put read issue 1 and then read these 3 short stories and then read issue 2.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how it looks when we get everything done.
Awesome. Mike?
Yeah, Tony, with all your vast resume, I mean, with Star Wars and Transformers, My Little Pony, Stray Dogs, all this great stuff, what has been some of your favorite stuff that you have drawn that you kind of look at and you're like, I can mash this up? Like, could we possibly see like, C-3PO in a Stray Dogs comic or something? Because we've already got the Transformers of My Little Pony. Is there any other mashups that you're looking for, or you would want to do?
Well, Stray Dogs sort of stands on its own in its own world. Like even when we did those Dynamite covers, those aren't the Stray Dogs; those are just dogs. They're our brand of Fleece and Force Nerve brand dogs.
Right.
So yeah, nothing really mashes up with them. But I was super proud of the My Little Pony Transformers. Like, I feel like that, I'm sure there were fan artists that did it before, but that book came out of Hasbro wanting to put those 2 properties together. And they would hire me to do these lithographs that they would give away at like Hasbro conventions or Transformers conventions and stuff. Because I was the guy that drew My Little Pony, and I could draw Transformers too. So I did 2 or 3 of those, and then they would do variant covers and stuff. And the whole time we were going like, should do a book of this. Like, this is great. Like, people really get off on this concept, and the 2 things juxtapose with each other so well. These soft round ponies and these hard square robots.
Yeah.
So that's if we're talking mashups, that's obviously my favorite. Like I just think it works really well. And then we started doing Pony Transformer crossover stuff, in like 2013, 2014, and it took until 2019, I think, until actually a book even materialized. Like it was long in gestation, just because Hasbro had like some internal who knows what. So we had started working on it a couple times, and then finally in 2019 they were just like, okay, we're doing it, let's go. And I was deep in Stray Dogs at the time, but I was like, well, no matter what, I got to draw this. So I made sure I had them.
Very cool. Very cool.
What is? Talk us through though the very unique and heretofore unseen pleasure of writing and crafting a story where Pinkie Pie hangs out with Bumblebee, and together they fight bad feelings and or Decepticons.
Well, it's any sort of but like buddy cop or road movie or like fish out of water thing where you got one character, you got a straight man and you got a funny guy, and the straight man doesn't understand the funny guy. And so, yeah, you just do it like that. I drew the ponies Transformers for the most part. I wrote like a 10-pager where it's there's a DJ in ponies. I don't know how deep you guys go on ponies, but there's this DJ called DJ Pone 3. Yeah. And she has a girlfriend named Octavia. I don't know if they're canonically GF, but I think that they are. And they get trapped in this cave and sound waves in there, and they have to blast their way out by DJing and blasting sonic waves at the walls of this cave, and so they end up in like a DJ battle with Soundwave. And that was just like, I wanted to. One of the original prints we had done was of Soundwave and this DJ pony in like a DJ battle. It was an image that I'd drawn years ago. And I was like, well, I just want to do that story. Like, that sounds great. And so, again, it was just sort of like working backwards. Like, I knew I wanted to have a DJ battle. So however we get to that thing. And then, yeah, the Transformers don't understand the ponies' ways. They're strange to them.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's
great.
Unbelievably awesome. So you have... And I know you're running a little short on time, so I don't want to have to dive crazy deep into this because you've got other podcasts to hang out with.
I booked up pretty heavy today.
And it's okay. It's okay. But you're kind of like the industry's go-to for MLP. And Mike was saying earlier that when he posted about this show, he got a shout out in a big brony group. And that is such a rabidly passionate fandom. Mm-hmm. What in the world is that experience like for you, like being at the forefront of this? I mean, I'm sure when you started getting into comics, this is not at all where you imagined the trajectory of your career would go.
Well, first of all, I'm like the number 2 or 3 pony artist. I'm not the premier at all. Andy Price up top, that's who they love the best.
Okay.
They like Agnes quite a bit. I have my own favorites, but yeah, I'm up there, I guess, as far as my little pony comic artists go. And it was crazy because the show had been on for probably 2 years when we started the comics. And so the fan base already existed. Like, I'd even heard of them, like on the radio, or, like there was rumblings about like there's these grown-ups that like My Little Pony. And so I got the opportunity to do the book, just like I'd been talking to the editor of the book and how stuff goes. Like, they're like, send us a sample of this, and I got the job working on it. And then as soon as I started working on it, I found out that there's not only these fans, but they have like their own conventions and all this stuff. And so I immediately went from being like my first regular comics gig to going to conventions and being like Stan Lee, like
right.
We just mobbed. Yeah, we get just treated so well, and yeah, like people want our autographs, and that's probably the second convention. The first one I went to was around when the comics came out, and people still weren't even sure that comics was a thing. So some people were just like, "Are these real? What is this?" I was very out of place the first one, but yeah, like the second one I went to, it was immediately like you're a superstar to a small group of people in like a Radisson, in the middle of Texas or something.
What an intoxicating drug.
I'll tell you what, it was wild. It was hard I went to everything they invited me to, and I still pretty much do. Like if they invite me to go to something, if I've got time, I go because I like those people a ton. Like the people that run the shows are great, and then the fans are just like I love Star Wars. I always have. I love all of Star Wars. I don't like have any Star Warses that I don't really like. I mean, there've been times where I'll just be like, Rise of Skywalker or the prequels or whatever. But like, I'm psyched about all of it. But even at that level of Star Wars acceptance, it's nowhere close to how much these people love My Little Pony. And so to see how psyched they are about the thing that I make, even though I didn't invent it, is just cool. Like you just see people just be so into a thing, and then you can, draw stuff for them or sell them prints or books or whatever, and or sign their comics or they've read all the comics. It's great. It's sort of like fantasy baseball camp where, like you go and you get to be Scott Snyder for a day or,
right.
like Jim Lee for a day.
So beyond, beyond what we've talked about, what more lies in your future?
Oh, well, I've got new books coming, but none of them are announced yet. I've been working on. I've been doing a lot of cover work lately. Like you mentioned, we did those recent run of covers, me and Trish with Dynamite on Vampirella and Army of Darkness, and Vampirella and Army of Darkness. Oh, and Red Sonja. And then we're looking at doing some more stuff like that, maybe at different places. And then we're just working really hard on Stray Dogs, Dog Days, the follow-up. And then Time Shopper on Kickstarter, which is finished, but right now I'm just working on the Kickstarter, which is just mostly refreshing the Kickstarter. I don't have much work to do at this point. I post updates here and there, but mostly I just refresh and see how we're doing.
Yeah, it's awesome. You had a fantastic career so far, and Stray Dogs seems to be something of an inflection point and a pivot. And I really think that things are really going to open up in some interesting new directions for you and for Trish. I mean, shoot, let's not sell anyone short or leave them out of the conversation. It's a group effort, but my hat's just off to you. This Stray Dog's just a phenomenal and very singular experience.
Thank you. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm real proud of making something. It's not even the only horror dog book, but it does seem to be something that people are just like, oh, this isn't like anything else we've read.
Yeah,
which is
it's clicking with people.
Yeah. So I'm very happy about that, and also very happy about sort of getting to introduce Trish's talent to
absolutely
to the rest of comics, because people had seen me around and sort of like knew that I was a person that drew stuff, but like I feel like she's like the secret that I found that I was just like, wait until people see what this lady can do. I'm so happy when people say that the book makes them emotional or whatever, because I'm just like, that's Trish, like she drew that emotional, and that's why you're feeling emotional. So it's been very rewarding to watch her, and also because it's her first big book, or her first book period. She did a couple issues of My Little Pony, but it's been crazy for me watching it be successful. But just watching somebody on their first comic just have it go like, it's just like, she thinks it's all like this, like she's just like, all right, what's the next hit book we're making?
Well, Tony, thank you so much for stopping in. I hate that we don't have more time to chat, but I totally get it. So,
guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here for sure.
Yeah, thanks to Mike for setting this up. I mean, he's really been the Stray Dogs booster at Comic Watch. He's the one that was like, and shoving this in everybody's hands. So,
well, thank you. It's the
yes.
kind of book you got to shove in people's hands. I think you can't just, you got to show them a little something. So I appreciate it, Mike.
Absolutely. I was hooked. Like I said, the whole Don Bluth and Silence of the Lambs. It's two things that shouldn't work, but they work, and it works beautifully. It's a damn good series.
Oh, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Well, Tony, we will talk again someday.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bud.
Bye.
See ya. What a great dude, right, Mike?
That was Tony Fleece, everybody.
Tony Fleece. Yeah, he of the Stray Dogs, which if you couldn't tell, we were kind of over the moon about, and you should totally read it.
Yeah.
So, but seriously, Mike, you made this thing happen. So my hat's off to you, bud. This was a good one.
No worries.
This is a good. And also just thanks for figuring out that his name is pronounced like fleece, not fleeks, because that was going to get crazy embarrassing very quickly if you hadn't found that out. So we've got just a little bit of time, and we've talked up a book that maybe a lot of people were looking at, not a lot of people might have paid attention to. It's blowed up real good now. Mike, I mean, what's one or two indie books you're reading right now that, or we'll say non-big two, because I don't think we can really count Image as indie anymore. But that are just blowing your mind a little bit, man. That people that aren't talking about enough.
Well, one, I'm gonna do a repeat just because we're getting into the spooky season here. Ed Piskor's Red Room. I think I mentioned it on the show before. It's definitely if you're into gore, if you're into body horror, then this is your thing. Even if you're into regular horror, I think you would still dig it, unless. If
I'm a fan of Cronenberg's The Fly, I'll probably dig it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's actually a pretty good analogy. They just wrapped up 4.
Is it just a miniseries, or is it some kind of ongoing?
It's
or
just
a series of miniseries?
It's just the 4 books. It was just the mini.
Okay.
And that's on, and I'm gonna jack this name up, Phantom Graphic Books.
Oh, Fantagraphics.
Thank you. Phantom Graphic. Thank you.
He actually has a long-standing relationship with them because that's who he prints Hip Hop Family Tree through.
Yep. But definitely worth your time on that. And I know Image may not be as indie, but we gotta talk about King Spawn, and especially King Spawn 2, and what.
But Mike, it's not 1992 anymore. Why should I, the discriminating reader, want to buy a Spawn comic?
This isn't your dad's Spawn comic.
What?
Yeah, I am willing to go on the limb here. We can make this a hashtag. We can tag the Todd Father and Sean Lewis and everyone. But Sean Lewis has really injected just a brand new life into Spawn.
Okay.
It's not.
So let me ask you this. Do I need to be familiar with Spawn's universe or recent events in the regular book to pick up King Spawn?
No, I would say read Spawn's universe just to kind of get, to kind of check the temperature of the water before jumping in. But I don't think, even if you bypass Spawn's universe and just pick up, King Spawn 1 and 2 and just kind of, jump in the deep end, it's not like jumping in the middle of, like, say, Fantastic Four or Batman or something, and you got, eons and eons to catch up, and who's dead and who's alive and who's retconned. But just the fact that with Sean Lewis and how he writes, and the art from Javi Fernandez is absolutely top notch. I mean, it's just amazing how it almost like it's the drier sheet. Now, I love Spawn. I have pretty much the whole series, but this is it's like a drier sheet in the dryer. It's freshen up the clothes. You like the clothes, but it's freshen it up. But it's
what
on the regular series.
What distinct King Spawn from regular Spawn? Why must we have 2 Spawn books?
Well, because I think they're different Spawns. I think the way Sean Lewis is writing, and he brings his very unique writing ability to Spawn. You're almost getting a new attitude and a new vigilante mindset almost.
Mhm.
You know, like there was, you know, you got that spread of, you know, Spawn with the sniper rifle, you know. So there's a new meanness to him. There's a new vigor that they're bringing to King Spawn that I think is absolutely worthy of anyone's time that maybe you fell off Spawn, or like you said, God, are we, you know, we're really talking about Spawn? Yes, we're talking about Spawn.
Interesting. And Nick's not even here to be the cheerleader for it.
And we were talking more importantly, we're talking about King Spawn. So absolutely read King Spawn.
And we got Gunslinger Spawn coming up soon. The Scorched. It's a good time to be Todd McFarlane. We'll put it that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's never a bad time to be Todd McFarlane. But,
you're right, except for those times when he was paying people to touch his balls. But yeah, I went there. Oh geez, no.
Bum, 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 bum.
So, man,
what are you reading, man? Why are
you breaking my balls? I am over the freaking moon for That Texas Blood. It is awesome. Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips they're, you know, Jacob Phillips, Sean Phillips' son. So we're playing very much in the same toy box as Criminal or any of the other books that Brubaker and Phillips might put out. It's a crime story. And I you know, there's probably, I think this book was tainted a little bit when it first came out because a little bit of nepotism. Oh, daddy's son, he's getting his shot immediately at the big time, blah, blah, blah. Forget all that noise. This book is the real deal. It's a crime story, and it's all about like small town Texas podunk life. Like it's just got a really unique blend to it.
Very cool.
And the characters, it's a small cast of characters. All of them feel really real and lived in. And man, it's just, I mean, it's probably one of my top 3 favorite non-Big 2 books that's coming out right now. And I mean, really, yeah, it's just a fantastic comic. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Very cool.
Then also Adventure Man from Matt Fraction and the Dodsons.
Yes.
Returned today with issue 5. If you were a fan of Matt Fraction's like 19-teens, 1920s pulpiness that he brought to his Iron Fist run back in the day, you will be a fan of this comic. Only instead of David Aja doing the art and Michael Lark, you have freaking Terry Dodson. And it is such a cool book.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous.
I will say that for me with Adventure Man, I enjoyed it, but it took me 2 rounds because I was like, whew, this is, there's like 80 pages in those damn issues, man.
But I mean, that first issue was, I want to say it was 60 pages for $3.99. Like, what a deal. Who turned their nose at that, right?
It's such a fun series. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, you should absolutely check this damn comic out. And then, I guess I'm not going to get away from Image, but we've got Righteous Thirst for Vengeance from Rick Remender starts next week or the week after. And it's his first new #1 in a little while. And I mean, I don't know a lot about it. I can't even tell you off the top of my head who the artist is, but it's a new Remender book. And the last thing he did was The Scumbag, which is uniquely hilarious, to say the least. And yeah, just great stuff all around.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, other than that, like, shoot, just keep reading comics, man. So we will be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. I do apologize if you were listening and trying to comment. For some reason, the Twitter comments were turned off. and I can't figure out what to do. I didn't want to risk messing our recording up, so and futzing with it. So we'll have that fixed next time. But until then, we remain your faithful and loyal hosts, Mike and Matt. Support your local comic store. Read something cool, and above all, folks, be kind to each other, because man, there's a lot of crap and negativity and hate in the world today, and man, it's just not worth it. Just be good to one another.
Yeah, for sure.
So all right, Mike.